important things in my job. Quality is extremely important because we have seen in the last several years that without quality, I won't have a job.
When we make a mistake, it really hurts on down the line, so we really have to strive to do our best, not just for our sake, to keep our jobs, but for the companies that we supply metal to. We have to keep up with them.
We hear a lot about quality and productivity today. And while a lot is being done, in other words, great progress is being made, globally, the gap is actually widening. Yet there are some people doing a great deal about it, and they're beginning to have a tremendous impact on American business.
Bill, you know, it's really exciting what's happening in America. You know, things are really taking place and really changing. The last 5 years has been a revolution in the whole quality activity. You know, you open up a magazine, what do you see? You see articles on quality. You open up the newspaper, you see Tom Peters' columns on quality. You go to a conference and the CEOs are standing up there and they're talking about quality. And they may not know what they're saying, they may not understand it, but they're talking about it. They're using words like continuous improvement. We've got to prevent problems from occurring. We can't wait to react. We've got to have a close interface with our customer. You know, and that's a major step forward. It's a major change. We just had a National Quality Award, a major recognition of companies in the United States that are producing high-quality products. And this is sort of a new upheaval. It's almost as though management all of a sudden recognized that there's a direct correlation between quality and profit. And all of a sudden they've realized that, and for the last 50 years they've been fighting that recognition, saying there is no correlation between quality and profit. And now that's all come together, and it's very exciting to see that enthusiasm developing throughout the country. But you know, along with that, we have another problem. We've got to be very careful that we don't relax with that enthusiasm. We've got to continue to keep that spirit going, because it's something that really requires a continuous emphasis, continuous work. Because the moment you relax, you don't hold your own in this place, in this competitive environment today, you start slipping backwards. So you got to continuously go forward. And I see so many companies in the United States saying, hey, we're not going to compete in the smokestack industries. We're going to go over into the service industries. We can't compete in the smokestack, so we're going to go after the services. And what makes you think that we can compete in the service industries if we can't in the basic products? You know, we have nothing special that separates us from the rest of the world in service. Look at what's happened in the banking industry. 10 years ago, America had 6 out of the top 10 banks in the world. Today, we've got 1, and Japan has stepped in and taken our place. And that's going to happen throughout the service industry if we don't go and really focus on the quality of our service and that interface with the customer.
I often think of the second-level manager who I went to, and I asked him what his manufacturing cycle time was. And he said to me, Pete, he said, I don't know, and furthermore, I don't care.
Well, in the late 1970s, well, early 70s, late 1960s, the steel companies pretty much had free rein here in the United States. They were able to ship whatever they produced, and quality wasn't particularly as important as getting the tonnage out. And that mentality has persisted over the years on into the early 80s. Difficulty, though, arose in the late 70s, early 80s when the Japanese and some of the European mills came into the United States with higher quality material. And once the customers in the United States got a taste of the higher quality material, it became more and more difficult for domestic steel companies to compete just based on getting tons out the door. And the international marketplace changed. Foreign companies started to take a higher and higher percentage of the business. And domestic companies were then put at a disadvantage because they then had to come out and try to compete.
So what's really happened is what you call the smokestack industry is affecting everything we're doing in the service, the banking, the financial, all the communities are hinged to that. And it's all around the quality issue, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And what's happened is our communications has got so superb that today we can pick up any technology, any information, and we can transfer it from the United States to Hong Kong in a matter of an hour. So there's no technological advantage that a company has anymore. The only advantage you have is your people and your management systems. And so you really got to focus on the excellence of that whole activity, because that's going to separate you apart. Back in 1973, you were able to purchase the most per your dollar. That's where the dollar peaked. And today, our living standard has continuously decreased from that point. Now, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Our children is going to be the first generation in the United States that's going to live in a poor economic situation than their fathers and mothers did. And that's happening today, and we've got to turn it around. The only way we can turn it around by focusing on quality so that we can improve our productivity, improve our competitive advantage. Now, we really went through a 10-year period that I call the dark decade. 1978, our peak, our summit, down to 1983, where things just, everything went wrong. We didn't realize how important the customer was. We thought that we were walking along, we felt that we had it made, that we knew everything that there was. You were looking at the Europeans and they said that MBA stands for I've been to America. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now what are we doing? You know, we found out that really MBAs won't do it. You've got to have people-oriented. You've got to have technically oriented managers. And what happened during that dark decade, look at what happened. Our total share of the world market dropped by 10%. You look at what happened as far as steel. We lost 42% of our steel market. Look at what happened as far as commercial aircraft. You think of steel, you think of autos, you expect that sort of thing. Commercial aircraft, we lost 15% of our world market in commercial aircraft, and that continues to get worse. And what have we done to ourselves? What have we tried to do to protect ourselves from that? Well, what we decided to do was we'd put up some barriers, trade barriers. We're going to try to keep people out by putting up trade barriers. But that does not work, Bill. It does not work. All that does is increase your costs. If you take for a typical example, the trade barrier, the amount of money that it takes to put trade barriers up on textiles costs $42,000 per job you save. Hey, you'd be cheaper. You'd be farther ahead to take that person and say, go home and have a great vacation.
And pay them.
And pay them.
Yeah.
It would cost the taxpayer less. So trade barriers is not the answer, and we cannot rely on trade barriers if we're going to go forward. What the answer is, we've got to be able to compete in a fair and open market. And we've got to put out products that the world is proud to buy. We've got to reestablish ourselves as the quality nation in the world. And that's what's going to do it. That's what's going to happen. You know, what's happening today, everybody's building in yen and they're selling in dollars. And what's that doing to us? That's changed us from the world's leading economic power down to the other end to the world's largest debtor nation. You know, they were even talking today about having the yen replace the dollar as the international standard as far as money is concerned. Now, absolutely regressing in where we're going. We've got to satisfy our customers. What happened? We sort of got away from our customers. We backed up from our customers. We didn't stay close to them. We felt that as engineers, as managers, as producers, we knew more about what our customers wanted than they did. And when that happened, we started building product that really did not meet that customer's needs. And what we needed to do was really develop a close partnership with our customers, a close working relationship with our customers.
Kind of like what you've done is come out behind the desk and get out with them.
Absolutely.
Be with them in a way that says, I care and I'm communicating with you, not just an advertising slogan.
No customer, no product, no job. It's in that order. And when we lose our customers, we lose our job. We lose our ability to compete in the international market. And it isn't just the United States. You know, it isn't just Japan that we got to worry about. You know, it's the United States and the rest of the world that we got to worry about. You swing around over into Russia, and we see a completely different attitude changing the Russian scene with the new people that's involved there. You look at their General Secretariat today, and he states that, you know, we have to focus on quality of goods, not on gross output. A complete change from the Russian environment. Swing all the way around the other side of the world into China. And their premier points out that quality is our first and long-term economic strategy. It's their primary objective in their economic recovery strategy. And, you know, and they're serious about it. They're really serious about it. You know, they're not only talking about it, the government's putting money behind it.
Well, Jim, you're spending time in China. I mean, probably no other quality person has been there as much as you have. So you're experiencing this incredible resurgence in their whole culture focused on quality.
And, you know, and certainly you can bring about change in that environment so much faster than you can in the United States. You can bring it about because they edict it. You talk one person into believing it, and everybody does it. Mm-hmm. When we talk quality, every CEO, every plant manager has to be convinced independently. They just make a decision and do it. So it moves fast, and it moves exciting. Hey, if you think Japan is a fierce competitor, Japan is a pussycat in comparison to China. They're fierce, and they mean it. And that's what you got to worry about. The rest of the world, not just Japan. What's happened throughout the world, people have accepted that there is a need to change, that we've got to do something about it. Everybody's talking about it, and there's a lot of talk going on. The real question is, how do you do it? How are you going to do it? Now, and there's a lot of confusion related to that. We have some accepted gurus throughout the world, and you look at Deming. Deming has 14 points focusing on statistics. Then you look at Phil Crosby. He has 14 steps focusing on motivation. And Bell Feigenbaum takes you from womb to tomb in quality as it's tied in with the engineering areas. Joe Duran, he says step-by-step problem-solving techniques are the only way that you're going to get there. Then you swing over to Japan, and their leading quality professional, Dr. Ishikawa, comes along with the humanistic side of quality. And so what happens, our management, the people that we're working with, our management team says, I hear all these conflicting stories. You know, which is the right way? Deming tells me statistics. Crosby says motivation. Duran says step-by-step problem solving. We can't get any agreement. And, you know, the important thing is you need them all. It's just that simple. You know, those are all tools. And what you need to do, Bill, is to build a toolbox. And you need to take all of those tools that they have and put them in the toolbox. You need to take some other tools that have been developed recently by companies in the United States, in Europe, and in Asia, and put them in that toolbox. What you need to do is to reach in and pull out the right tool for the right job. And there's no right combination of tools for every business. Everything that goes wrong with your car is a different combination of screws, nuts, and bolts that have to come out to take out the generator versus the starter. Mm-hmm. And it's the same way with each company has a different personality, a different need as far as the improvement activities are concerned. And so that's what you need to do, is to be able to understand that. And when you do, you see marvelous things happen. Absolutely marvelous, exciting things happening. And that's what gets me excited today. And you're seeing that take place throughout the United States. You're seeing it in companies like Xerox, IBM, little companies like North American Tool and Die, Accurate, Globe. Is you see that whole thing starting to come together, and it's sort of exciting to see a rebirth of pride in America.
There's almost a whole revolution going on now, Jim. And that's part of what you're about. That's what this whole continuous improvement process is about. That's the demand for what we're producing here.
The reason that we're really installing a quality improvement process here at Accurate is that, one, we want to avoid a future crisis. We want to avoid the crisis of a competitor outstripping us as far as quality goes and as far as customer satisfaction goes. In addition to that, we want to avoid the future crisis that we would become twice as large and twice as disorganized. So we have the threat from within and the threat from without.
Quality is very important to the future of Accurate. We see it now as one of the greatest concerns we have in this organization. Our surveys have shown that people like our quality, but we're not satisfied with that. We want to be the best. We want each and every customer out there to be able to tell somebody else, if you want a good job, if you want a good piece of equipment, buy it from Accurate. We don't want customers going out there for bids. We want to be the first thing that's on the tip of their tongue.
In the Pacific Rim area, we've become very competitive. We've gone into Korea now, into the big Pusan ironworks over there, and displaced Japanese competitors. So it's kind of displacing the Japanese on their own turf, so to speak, because it's a lot closer to them than it is to us. And if we can go that far with our product, ship it clear across the Pacific, and be cost competitive as well as better in the quality area and service area, then we think that we really are getting to where we want to be. And we've had a lot of success now in developing business in not only Korea, but Australia and Taiwan, and we're looking now into Malaysia and India and other places, as well as being very successful on the European continent, where we're going head-to-head against Norwegian and German competitors that make the same products and have been supplying those customers over there for years.
Last 3 years, our growth rate has been about 45% per year range. We achieved 23% return on equity in the last 10 years on average. And that's about 50% higher than American electronics industry. And the reason I believe that we can achieve this kind of result is our commitment to achieve high quality and high productivity, be able to compete in the world marketplace.
You see, what's happening is we're just seeing that payoff so big. The paybacks are so great. That customer is absolutely king, and it has to be the focal point of all of our thinking, all of our thoughts, all of our business activities. You know, customers used to want quality. Today they demand it, and they'll settle for nothing less. And I'm concerned because I see a creeping paralysis that's growing throughout the nation. It's what I call don't give a damn complex, or that's good enough for government work. Mm-hmm. You know, people that says that I'm not going to stress to be my very best, that I'm going to stop short of where I know I can actually be. And that really is a cancerous condition that we've got to cut out of our thinking. We've got to, each and every one of us, strive to be our very best, to give the most we can possibly give to each and every day.
So where can we start, Jim, as learners inside of a corporation? What's our first step? What do we need to do to make that happen?
I think the first thing you got to do is to change some of your thinking patterns related to the goals you set for ourselves. What we do is we have a tendency to set goals and feel if we meet those goals, we're a success. Management by objectives, you know. And it's a good system, except it's the wrong system. What we did is we've learned the secret to playing the game. And we say we're going to be measured by our goals, and if we set a goal here and we meet it, we're a success. So what we're going to do, we know we can make this distance, so we're going to set it a little bit so we got a little fat in it so we can be sure we're going to make it. We set our budgets 20% lower than what we really, higher than what we really need. And then we think we're a success when we meet them. And it's just the opposite. What we need to do is really stretch ourselves in setting goals, to stretch ourselves, to challenge ourselves to be better. And management then in turn has to accept the fact when we set stretch goals for ourselves that sometimes we're going to fail. Yeah. And management has not been willing to accept that. Good enough is just not good enough anymore. Only our very best is good enough today. And there are really three types of companies. There's good companies, and we have lots of good companies, and those good companies in the 1990s are going to go out of business. Mm-hmm. And they make product that's good. There's better companies, and they're going to have a hard time. And by the 21st century, the only ones that are going to survive are the best companies, because there's only room for the best today. Mm-hmm. And so out of the three levels of quality, there's only one that you've got to focus on. You've got to be the very best. And there's some things that I see that are standard in the companies that are really setting world-class standards, the very best companies there are. Now, those companies set very high standards for themselves, their products, and their people. They're not willing to be among the best. They want to be the company that the rest of the world is benchmarking against. And they strive to do that. They're never content with where they are. These companies have what I call a constructive level of dissatisfaction. Would you like to have dissatisfied workers working for you?
I'd love to have them dissatisfied in a very constructive way.
Yeah, that's the real key. You know?
Sure.
Most of the people will say, dissatisfaction, that's negative, that's bad. I don't want to have dissatisfied workers. Well, you really do. You want people that say, things can be better. Things can be better here, and I can make a difference. I'm going to bring about change. At IBM, we call those wild ducks. And what happens, the wild ducks want to fly. And American management has a tendency to go around and clip all the wings of the wild ducks, and they're the ones that's going to drive our future. So it's very important that we encourage those people that want to challenge our system rather than attack them. These companies have a real focus on their customer. They really understand their customer. They spend time to be with them, know them, and work with them. These same companies put quality before cost or schedule. They know if they solve their quality problems, cost and schedule will take care of themselves. The same companies, without exception, have a better return on investment. Some of the studies we've seen that these companies' return on investment is more than 50% higher than the return on investment of companies that produce low-quality products. And certainly last of the characteristics with the really top-rated companies is they have a respect for the individual, his rights, his dignities. They respect them as a person, as an individual.
All our employees, from the production worker on up to the senior management, understand that the customer is, in fact, the final arbiter in everything we do.
I think the one misconception that people have is the fact that quality processes are for the big company, the IBMs of the world, that can afford to spend the time and the money. This company has seen a tremendous awareness out of our quality process. People on the floor being more aware of what they're doing, stopping pieces of equipment that might normally have been shipped simply because there's a scratch on the side of the piece of equipment. There's no doubt about it. It is costing this company some money to pay for the consultants, etc. But is it worth it? I'd have to say yes, a resounding yes, simply because of that awareness that's filtered on down through the people. I no longer have this attitude, and nor do the people around me, that quality processes or quality systems in place are for the big companies of the world.
There's been a real change in the emphasis as to what our customers, I think, are expecting. In the old days, you could probably take the salesman in to visit the purchasing manager and take him out to play golf or go to dinner or something like that, and that would be pretty much the extent of the relationship, and that might seal the deal there. Today, the customers want more than that. Today, the customers, even the purchasing people, want to talk in terms of process capability, or at least where we are in relation to their specifications and what kind of control plan that we might have in place to control the product that we produce for them.
Jim, it sounds like focus on the customer is the real heart and soul of this discussion.
Absolutely. And it's more than just focusing on what he wants and needs and expects. It's also focusing on what he doesn't like.
Yeah.
And that's equally as important. The White House Office of Consumer Affairs has looked into the possibility of what happens when a customer is dissatisfied. And they found out that 96% of all the customers we have that are dissatisfied with our services never complain.
They just go away.
They just go away. They're the silent minority that goes away and never comes back to you. And over and above that, 91% of those never will buy from you again if they have the option. They'll go someplace else. And over and above that, still, they'll tell 13 other people about how dissatisfied they were. They won't tell you, but they'll tell 13 other people. And from your customer standpoint, that's where you're going to lose your customers. From your competition standpoint, that's the best advertising campaign they can possibly have. Everybody is reluctant to change. You know, they all say, hey, change is good. You ought to change. He ought to change. They ought to change. Me change? No way. What we've got to do is we've got to be able to embrace change. You know, look at it as a way of life. It's something that's going to happen. And if we don't change and move forward, we're not going to be able to keep up a pace with the rest of the world. We hear so much about culture. I think the culture in the United States is something we ought to be proud of. Culture is defined by Webster's dictionary as our background, our history, our religion, our belief. And I think we ought to be proud of that. America is still the most productive country in the world. The real problem is personality. Personality is defined as an individual's impact on other individuals, and that's what's wrong. We've really got to focus on changing our leadership personality. You know how the personality of a whole company changes if you get a new president in. He comes in, he plays soccer, everybody knows the soccer scores, right? We're all smart. So it's that personality that we work about, and we can bring about personality changes in our whole business environment that will make the difference. 10 years from now, our culture will be taken care of. It's just much easier to focus in the personality area. You know, what we're doing is really talking about changing the way we believe, the way we act, the way we think. And you do that by having a shared belief in values, a shared vision of where you're going to go, and people that are working with you to make that occur. And that's the only way that you're going to bring about that necessary change that we're looking for today.
Jim, I'm convinced. You're preaching to the choir here, and I think a lot of us believe we're doing a lot in this area, but how do we know how well we're really doing?
Well, that's what the team exercise is going to do. It's going to help you quantify exactly where you are. And what we're going to do is we're going to break for a period of time. Your facilitator will appoint a scribe, and you will answer 3 questions. From that, we'll make a distribution, and we'll determine where the company is and how much it needs to change. We'll be back with you in a few minutes.
Well, how'd you do? Looking at how quality is going to impact the entire future of your business and how your own personal effectiveness at achieving it is a pretty critical issue. You're embarking on a long journey, and during the next 10 sessions, we're really going to spend time at looking at each of the critical activities that it really requires to achieve total quality management. We're going to study how the most successful companies in America have done it. Let's spend some time now with Dr. Harrington. And let's look from his worldwide travels at all the issues that are really required for you to achieve total quality management.
What we're going to talk about is the improvement process. And those words are very important. We selected the word improvement. We didn't say just quality improvement. We used the word improvement because we're going to not only improve quality, we're going to improve productivity. The two of them go together. They're inseparable. The other thing is it's going to be a process. It's an ongoing, continuous thing. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to make that part of your management system, of the way you do business. Between now and the next class, I'm going to ask you to complete a homework assignment. This assignment's going to have you evaluate different elements of your business and determine where it is in the whole improvement cycle. Now, we have found that you normally evolve in different activities at different rates. And there is 7 levels of evolution. The first step is the preconception stage. You don't really know that you got a problem. We're doing everything all right. Preconception. From there, you evolve to the awareness stage. You're aware that maybe there's something out there. There's some reason we should do something. Then you start searching. You try to educate yourself, say, what should we do? From there, you go into an experimental stage. How are we going to do it? Try to experiment. What works for you? Total implementation is the next stage. And then it becomes a part of your total management system. It's no longer something special. And last, you come into the stage of continuous improvement. Now, what I'd like to have the class do is to sit down as individuals and evaluate these key elements of the business to determine what stage of this evolution cycle you are at today, sum up the information, and calculate an index that will show you where you are, and from that index, we will give you an idea of how you compare with the rest of the world.
Thank you, Jim. So here we go. We've obviously got some serious issues to look at before we can even dream of continuous improvement. This homework assignment should help you come to grips with how ready you really are for some major changes, positive changes. And next session, we're going to tackle our first critical activity, the imperative, the commitment of top management to the whole improvement process.